This girl is on fire. This girl is on
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SAP. I am Margot Goodson, head of North America Strategic Inclusion, and we're so very proud to have you here today. Give yourselves a round of applause for showing up. We thank you for the honor of hosting this session today. We have been longtime partners with HITEC as silver sponsors. We have had the ability to send some of our colleagues through the emerging executive programs, through the board readiness program. We're honored to have two honorees of the HITEC 100 and the 50 program, and Tamara Ramirez Walker and Ada Agrait, who you will hear from shortly. So we are just pleased to have you here, and we will have a lovely day together despite the weather. It's going to be lovely because we are here together to listen, to learn, and take part in this as we are here. So a few housekeeping notes. We have restrooms, so you have to go around this way and towards the reception area for the restrooms. Wi-Fi, you will see various places around the room, placards that reflect what you need to do for that. Refreshments, I hope you've already helped yourself to some, and we will refresh the refreshments during the networking session. There will be QR codes between our sessions today. We'll have immediate surveys after each session, so you'll see that. And last but certainly not least, we have closed captioning available. For those of you online and in the room, we will have that available. And there are QR codes that enable various languages for it. So if you use your QR code to scan that, I believe there's a headset or something for the various languages. And so that is something that we can do because we are an inclusive company and we want to make sure that everyone has a great experience. That's fair? We're good? Awesome. Again, thank you for being here. Welcome to SAP. And we will have official welcome remarks from Nelly Borrero and Ada Agrait, and they will come up and bring welcome remarks, and then we'll transition right into the keynote. But first, let me bring up Nelly with a little intro, and then Nelly will bring up Ada when it's time. So Nelly Borrero's career is a masterclass in and of itself, and what it means to lead with purpose. We know we all have different things for purposes, and she can certainly do it. And with more than 3 decades at Accenture, started in high school, right? She culminated in her role as Senior Strategic Global Managing Director, and she's become one of the most influential voices in the global inclusion and workplace culture. And that's important where we are every day, right? So her leadership has helped set new standards for what it is to be equitable, human-centered workplaces. And she has an acclaimed book, Unwavering, which distills her philosophy into a powerful guide for creating sustainable, high-performing cultures. Today, Nelly channels her expertise as a trusted advisor to C-suites, as an executive coach, and as a compelling speaker whose insights resonates across the industries. So how about we give her a warm welcome and we bring up Nelly Borrero and look forward to hearing from her.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to put some notes here. By a show of hands, how many people in this room have been to a HITEC event before? Amazing. I mean, that's a lot of hands. I hope somebody took a picture of that. I want to take a moment to talk about the power of HITEC, but the power of all of you in this room. But before I do that, thank you to SAP and all the leaders that are here from SAP. Yes, thank you for doing that. We know that we are, in a journey and ensuring that we get organizations to support organizations like HITEC, so thank you. Thank you to the HITEC team, because this team is incredible and they do mighty things. So Omar, Susanna, Kelly, and all of the team, thank you. Let's give them a hand as well. And then to all of you for choosing to be here today. So At HITEC, we talk a lot about architects of growth, right? You've seen it oh my God, David Morales, I see you there. Okay, see familiar faces. We talk about this all the time, but that's not what I want to talk about right now. What I want to talk about is the power of where we sit with this brand of HITEC. So how many of you have heard the term find a third place besides family and besides where you work? Have you heard the term find a third place? Yeah, some people have heard it. Okay, so find a third place basically means that we know what to create community, obviously with our families and our neighbors and our religious faith and so on. But there's also within our work environment, corporate environment, where we create another community. But then there's this sort of trend of the third community. The third community is finding a cafe to sit at and spend some time and meet people there and, you know, talk about like-minded sort of topics. I will tell you, HITEC became my third community. My third place is called the third place. And at HITEC, what I was able to find through this brand was a community where I created and have created incredible friendships, where I've created a community where I can go to someone and say, hey, I have a challenging situation that I want to talk to you about. There was one time that I went to one of the meetings in Seattle and I was walking and another member of the board was walking and we looked at each other, we said, we're tired, aren't we? And we were tired and we talked about, you know, how tired we felt about all the stresses that are going on in our lives. So what HITEC has done, it really focuses on ensuring that you're up to speed and up to par in skills when it comes to understanding what's happening with the evolution of technology. And we know it's evolving really fast. We're going to talk about that all afternoon. But what it does also, it creates that third place for you, whether it's in a live event like where we're sitting in today, or whether it's a virtual event, or whether it's a call that you place to someone. So I encourage all of you that continue to participate in HITEC is to make it your third place, because I will tell you, it definitely helps you evolve as an individual and as a professional. So what do I think really comes out of HITEC? You're seen, you're valued, and you're heard. And I know many of you have been in this room, have been part of the HITEC 100 or the 50, have been featured on panels yourself, have been keynote speakers at HITEC. HITEC creates a platform for our community and those outside of our community as well to be seen and to be heard. So the reason why I think that's so important for us to understand is because it gives us so much. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we giving to HITEC in return? And I think that's a really important question for us to ask ourselves today, because again, we're going through challenging times when it comes to programs such as HITEC and other similar ones. So my question for you will be, what are you doing for HITEC? We know what SAP did, right? They're hosting us today, so yay to that, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to give back? What are we doing to ensure that we're sustaining the power of this organization that has done so much? I see people here across generations. I see some younger ones sitting here in the front. I see others that are more senior like me. So when we think about this generationally, HITEC is really embedding value into all generations. When we think about the Zers, the millenniums, the boomers, all of us, no matter where you sit in your life journey, HITEC at this point can deliver something for you or for someone close to you. So I encourage you to stay involved. I encourage you to ask yourself that question, what am I doing for HITEC? I know what it's doing for me. And how do you continue to have those conversations? So I will now introduce Ada, who I had a chance to meet. And, you know, it's always really cool when you meet someone that has, you know, similar background. So she is a fellow Boricua. Yes. We like that. We like that. We could start singing some songs right now too, doing some salsa. We could do it all. We could do it all, right? See, on cue. I love it. Okay, so when we sat down for a few minutes, you know, it's immediate a connection with someone that shares in your lived experiences and in your background. We can't deny that. That just comes very natural. We know that meeting people for the first time sometimes is a little more challenging. You have to find ways to try to connect. You have to put on, you know, that filter. You have to code switch. All these things happen when we meet people. But when we meet people that have a similar background, the code switching kind of goes away really quickly, right? The filtering goes away really quickly. So I experienced that with Ada earlier today. So Ada agreed. I even asked her, how do you pronounce your last name? Because I see how you spell it, but I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So Ada agreed. I think I got it right. So she has this tremendous leadership role here at SAP that I'm sure many around you are proud, and we should be proud as well. She's the Global Chief Marketing Officer. That is a pretty significant role in today's environment. So with that alone, she's already made us proud, right, to be in the same room with her. So I think it's amazing. She did her education in New York State and New York City, her undergrad in Syracuse and her graduate in Fordham Grad School. And she was born and raised in Puerto Rico. So as I was looking at her bio, I'm thinking, oh, I want to be friends with her. So, so that friendship begins today. Also recruiting her to do a couple of things too, but we'll talk about that later. But I do want to read a little bit about her, because when you think about people's career journey and their trajectory, we do have to pause and give that person sort of the kudos, right, that they deserve to this journey. So bear with me as I read this. So I'm going to start with, as the Global Chief Marketing Officer at SAP, Ada leads all marketing functions, including brand awareness, demand generation, adoption, field marketing events, sponsorship, partner marketing, and digital experiences. I mean, that's enough for her to say I don't have time to be here, but she's here, right? So thank you. And I think there's a big event coming up in a week and a half too. Ada and her team guide worldwide marketing initiatives by fostering a data-driven culture, identifying trends, and collaborating closely with product and sales teams. She drives strategies, global execution that support business objectives. That's really important, and we know that, right? Significantly contributing to SAP's sales growth and market leadership. She joined SAP in 2022 and has helped transform the marketing organization. So I want to take this moment to ask you to help me enthusiastically welcome Ada to the stage today here at HITEC. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to do my timer to make sure that I stay on time, because you all know that some of the power of Latin people is that we can start talking. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to set my timer because one of the superpowers that I have is to talk and go past my time. So if I don't have a little timer to remind me, then you'll be here 4 hours and you don't want to miss the rest of the amazing speakers that we have today. So thank you, Nelly, for the introduction. And Margaret, my name is Ada Airaít. I'm Puerto Rican, born and raised. My family's still there. So buenas tardes a todos los que están aquí. And so I basically want to talk a little bit today about leadership in the AI age. And thank you for being here today. And I also have a Q&A. So I'm going to make sure that we have time just to be able to answer candid questions, no topics off limits. All right. So, you hear today all into AI. And, sometimes when I see AI right now, I kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're AI washing. But the reality is, like, the technical disruption that AI has brought to businesses and to us as humans is pretty incredible. And you could decide, I have a lens of the glasses half full. So you could decide to be paranoid and scared, or you can lean in to be curious to learn what AI can do for you as an individual and for the businesses. As a CMO, my number one priority is to drive growth for the company. And that growth comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, meaning, how are we growing our brand equity? How are we growing customer loyalty? How are we growing revenue? And most importantly, how am I helping grow the people that enable the growth for the company? And AI is changing a lot of that. But what it hasn't changed is that you still need humans and judgment to run businesses. That is not going away. You can certainly use AI to get more efficient. I use it a lot in my personal life and in my work life so that I have a semblance of sanity. day in and day out. So there's a lot of tools that I personally use for two reasons. I'm curious because I want to learn and I want to stay relevant to the business that I happen to work in, and to really inspire others to use technology and tools that are easily available for us. I believe that throughout my career, like intention has been something that has sort of gone the boundaries of every shift in my life from the day that I was born. And I really learned that from my family. You know how people say adversity builds resilience? So when I grew up in Puerto Rico, my parents divorced. My mom was a single mom. She did not have a college education, so she was raising two girls, going back to get her undergraduate, going to get her graduate degree, and then become a lawyer, which was pretty extraordinary. So I saw the importance of hard work. And I also saw that hard work did not always yield high returns. I saw that there were a lot of starts and stops. I saw that, no matter how hard she worked, there was not always enough money to do all the things that I wanted to do. And I don't think anybody can teach you that. I mean, you can take a lot of courses but I lived that. So I felt that when I was 13, I needed to get my first job so I could help. And I worked at my grandmother's flower shop, which was, kind of my first non-paid work experience, where my grandmother was a woman who started a business when her husband passed away. And at that time, there were no women business owners in Puerto Rico. Now I'm talking about, 60 years ago. But that was my first time to helping balance the books. Greet customers, understand their likes and dislikes, and really understand the importance of work ethic. I always say when I'm hiring people, you can't teach work ethic, right? You have to, that kind of has to be innate. You can teach somebody how to be better. You could teach somebody new skills, but it's really hard. Passion and work ethic are things that are really hard to just show up at a job day one and say, okay, I'm passionate and I got this. So for me, those two things, my family taught me how to be passionate, and they really taught me the importance of hard work. So at the end of the day, I'm in Puerto Rico. I decide to go to college, and I really wanted to go to college in New York City because New York City for me is the center of the universe. I lived here for about 12 years and I felt at home. But I financially, for the schools that applied, the only school that actually gave me a scholarship was Syracuse. So that's where I went to school. It wasn't like you applied 100 schools and then it was, okay, that's the one school that I can go. It's a great school. And I got a scholarship. I had to work X amount of hours a week and keep a GPA of 3.7 to keep my funding. So I kind of look like a, fish out of water, trying to go from Puerto Rican weather to the winters in Syracuse that people talked about it. And I kept saying, how bad can it be? Well, when you have snow up to your chest, you realize, okay, I get it. So, at the end of the day, going to school, kind of managing, figuring out, oh my gosh, tuition is going up. Can I even pay for that extra tuition? Do I need to get a second job? And then how do I keep? So those were the experiences and somewhat adversity that kept helping shape for me to become more, resilient, right? And when you think of the shift that we're in today with AI and technology, it's kind of akin to when the internet started. Do you guys remember dial-up? Well, some people are too young to know what dial-up is, but for those of you that are of my generation, you could hear the connecting to AAL, ding, dun, 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 ding, and then you're like, okay, I connected to the internet. So very similar. That's where we are today. And I think a couple of things that nobody says is that everybody believes that your career, your progression is it's supposed to be like this. And I would say it's more, right? Because when you're trying to manage your career, there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. The things that you can control versus the things that you can't control. The things that you can't control, the economy collapses. The things that you can't control, a war, the stock market crashes. I would like to say that I'm a magician or miracle maker, but I'm always reminding my boss, I'm a marketer. Right? So you can choose the people that you work with, right? And if those people that you're working with is not the environment that you want, you could always say, okay, I choose to go elsewhere so that I can find joy in my job. I always say that I need to get at least 70% of joy in my job to keep me happy. That's a pretty high threshold. And the moment, I mean, there's ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm at 60%, like right now, as we head into Sapphire, our biggest customer event where we're hosting about 12,000 people, and you want people to thrive in that environment. My threshold is a little lower because there's all the things that you have to do to manage and make great things happen. But I do believe that like your employment and your career a lot of times is a choice. And sometimes there's reorgs, and you end up in places where you're not thriving, or you don't have the village or the supportive people that actually are going to help take you to the World Cup or the Super Bowl, whatever version of that is for you. But at the end of the day, it's like, what are the things that I can control? So my peer got promoted and I didn't. Okay, I don't know what they're doing. So I can be angry at it, or I can kind of learn to say, what are the things that they're doing that I can learn from? I can't control their output of Heilerwick, but I can control my work, my output, how I lift others up. That is absolutely something that I can control. So I think a lot of times when I'm talking about sort of that constant change I always go back to what are the things that I can control? And I'm still old school. I use OneNote as my way to communicate mostly, and obviously technology, but I still have a notepad that has what are the things that I'm good at and what are the things or the areas where I have to grow. And every time that I'm going to a career change, now that notebook is also in OneNote, but it's like, what are the things that are going to help me thrive? And what are the things that are going to get me out of the comfort zone? So when I moved from, as part of my career journey, I was in New York City and I said, I'm never leaving New York. It's 3 hours from Puerto Rico, center of the universe, thriving, diverse culture. I mean, what's not to love, right? Microsoft recruited me. And the first time I'm like, no, thanks, I don't want to go. And they're like, everybody's like, well, Microsoft recruited you. Don't you run? And I'm like, well, they're not part of my master plan, even though I've never had a super well-written master plan for my personal career. And I took a step back and I said, wow, why am I just saying no? Like, what is driving me? And I realized that I was in a comfort zone here and that I wasn't pushing myself to grow. And I kept thinking, what's a downside of getting outside your comfort zone and really trying something that's really scary? Well, I moved to Washington to work for Microsoft. I probably cried. Yes, I cry. No matter how senior you are, you have, sadness, and I literally cried for an entire year crossing the bridge to go to work because I felt alone. There was not a thriving Latino community 20 years ago in Seattle. Now we're up and coming and thriving. But that was, part of what I kind of wanted to do with what I needed to personally do to grow. And I think that it's important, again, as we go through these shifts, to understand in some ways, like I always tell people, like, wow, it's a privilege that I get to work in technology today with the shift to AI. Because the skills that we're getting as individuals working in technology during the AI, like AI may be transforming all, but the skills that you're gaining working in this area are going to prepare you to be a kick-ass CEO one day. Today, tomorrow, 5 years from now. And that's really the power that we all individually have. And then the power is, I always tell the folks that I mentor, they're like, oh my gosh, I have an interview. I'm so nervous. And I always remind them, remember your interview, you are interviewing the employer too. I think the best advice that I got once was I got a job and I thought, oh my gosh, I must take the job, even though I had heard that the reputation of the leader was not great. And this mentor of mine, Joanne Bradford, said to me, just because you get a job doesn't mean you should take that job. Now, in fairness, I was employed at that point, so it may have been different if I wouldn't have been employed at that time. But at the end of the day, that executive got let go of the company for inappropriate behavior, and I made the right choice, right? I've made wrong choices to work for people that I don't necessarily believe, or I've walked away from jobs where I have felt like I'm not going to thrive because I'm not going to have the support of people around me to help me grow. And again, I've always said, I think we're recording this, like I want to be an executive that helps drive growth, lifts people up, but is not an asshole. I don't think you need to be not kind to work in technology. I think I'm accountable. I have very high standards because that's expected of me. But I think you need to treat people the same way that you want to be treated, and that's not the case. So my career and my life story has been about finding those opportunities where I can thrive, grow, and then lift others. And then really early on, as kind of the only very colorful person in a room that was primarily, tech executives, right? When I was working at Ernst & Young, me with my red lipstick and my sassy personality, where I really felt like, oh my gosh, I have to change who I am. I have to hide my accent. I have to hide, maybe change my lipstick color so people don't, I don't create too much attention. Really be nervous about when to speak or how to speak. And I realized that I could use data as the way to communicate effectively, regardless of who I was within a room. And I realized that sometimes when people would tell me, "Oh, you're a little too passionate over the top," I'd be like, "Yes, I am passionate, but let's go back to the core of the topic that we're discussing and the data that's driving the conversation." So it wasn't, hey, should something be blue or green? I'd always be, well, let me tell you the data that shows that our customers prefer green. So we could sit here for hours debating what the color of the website should be. But at the end of the day, customers should tell us what we should do. I think the other thing that's been kind of interesting is like, how do you thrive sometimes in an environment that is changing, where there's constant change? And, I'm always thinking, I always say like, and this I learned from Satya, like always be learning, because in today's environment, we're assets to support a company to grow. So the more that you learn, the more that you're prepared, the more that you use data to drive those conversations, you're going to be a bigger, more incredible asset for the company or whatever. And actually, you could be talking this environment. It can be in your community. It could be also as a parent, right? I'm a parent of a 15-year-old, and every day I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, baby Jesus, like, what's the new trend or fad, or what's she gonna ask for, and what's the R movie that she wants to watch that I'm not comfortable, right? But it keeps me grounded, right? And it really helps me navigate the ways that we go forward. And today I would say, I think my team, Jackie should tell me, I don't know how, we probably have about 1,500 people in marketing today. And I believe that my job is to have them thrive and bring joy. I do bring some pain, not personally, just how the business does and how fast we need to move, right? But it's like, how can I help develop and help folks grow? And how can I really be my true self? I do drop a lot of F-bombs sometimes. And thank God that Teams now doesn't record those. So I'm safe. Um, because it's part of my passion, right? It's part of who I am, and I don't want it to insult anyone. I think, I've learned to curtail them. But it's part of my passion, and transparency, I always say clarity is kind, right? The more that you can be transparent and clear with your manager, with the people around you, that's, I believe, the things that have helped me. And if anybody thinks that there's one roadmap for success or failure, there isn't. It is a journey, and I've had some lows. I've been let go of companies due to restructuring. And I've also benefited from some changes to get me to where I am today. So that's what I had for today. I think we're going to move into Q&A.
So thank you for that, Ada. I don't know if you want to have a seat or if you want to stand around. We'll take questions from the audience here. We have some mic runners, and then we do have the ability for questions to be submitted via the online platform. And I believe somebody here will get us those questions from the ones who come from the online platform.
Don't be shy. They're
Yes.
off limits.
We have a question here.
Marcelo De Santis, I'm chair of the HITEC Foundation. Thank you. Thank you
It's so
for
good to
hosting
meet
us
you.
first,
Yeah.
and thank you for your story. It's very, very inspiring. So my question is about what's happening with AI agents and the impact on software as a service. I know there is a lot of conversation about, is SaaS dying? What's the intersection of AI with a company like SAP?
Yeah, for sure. So, I kind of think that my point of view is that I think AI as helpers and really automating things that help me or help our business leaders really focus on more strategic things. So I'll just give you a basic example. For my team, or for a lot of you, potentially if you're in marketing, build a campaign that goes live across 38 markets. Used to take months. And with some of the new AI technology that we're using in partnership with Adobe, the steps to get a campaign live are the same, like 1 to 70, I'm going to make it up. But we've been able to reduce the time to market in half. What it allows me to do is that I have humans that are doing more of the upfront strategy, automating parts of the campaign process that are super manual, that I don't have anybody showing up saying, I want to do more Excel spreadsheets with workbacks, right? And I think when you think about the agents and assistants, so for SAP, we have our assistants, which is a combination of agents that actually help you to a path. I really think about helping business processes be faster so that you can, I think AI, there's a school of AI, you could do more with less, you can be more productive. I have found that AI personally and professionally for me has increased my productivity significantly. I also know that AI, whether you're using agents for scoring model, for customer experience, for supply chain management, it's actually prompting and solving things that don't require somebody reading through reams of data. So I think of AI, it's super disruptive, like the technology is disruptive, and it's also changing what jobs are growing and what jobs are going away. Kind of very akin to when we had the internet came up, right? Where everybody's like, oh my gosh, like, or really when laptops, computers, everybody's like, computers are going away, right? So I think it's a reshifting of the population of employee, allowing for some folks to reskill, but it's really assisting business processes so that you can actually have better insight into your business and you can solve problems faster. And what that allows you to do is respond faster. Like, think of today. Supply chain breaks, there's a war. How do you manage that complexity? AI is helping in so many ways to our customers to be able to mitigate some of that risk and get back on track. You bet.
We got another question here.
Yeah, great.
I had a Marcelo Costa with Ipaneores. We're actually a partner of SAP.
Hi, so good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Likewise, and thank you for sharing with us your story, and very interesting also everything that you shared. But my question goes towards, actually, I also have a teenagers. So
Yeah.
talking about marketing, your expertise, and the new generation, what type of advice would you give to these people in terms of, especially if they are looking into opportunities now with AI and marketing in that field, what type of advice would give to the younger generation?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, where do I begin? No, I'm kidding. I think communities is the place. Like, I think the concept of a community is the place that, as we're marketing the next generation, they're not a generation that responds to ads, to overt ads. I mean, just in general, people are just either clicking off their putting on their ad blockers, et cetera. I think that influencers and community is how we are finding that we're resonating more with the next generation of developers or the new generation of folks that we want to bring into the company. So I think this strategy is, I also think their tolerance for bull is very low. I always say, hey, I'm a marketing, but a lot of people are like, well, let's make sure we don't have marketing speak. And I'm like, well, that's not a thing. There's like communications against a target audience, and we want to make sure that that communication is clear, is distinct, and whoever wrote it, whether it's it doesn't matter. It's really like being clear. So I think you're going to find that companies are going to have to be continue to be more transparent and provide more clarity to customers of how to engage. And I also believe this concept that there's just one experience will go away, right? There will be 100 permutations of a trial, 100 permutations of a website, so that these experiences, the expectation is that they're going to be hyper personalized to meet the needs of that customer. And honestly, technology is the way that you can actually do it. My kind of excitement in the last year was I was actually able to relocate more people into our marketing insights team. And what that allowed us was to, how are we using AI to get more engagement from customers? And how do we diversify the channels that we're in so that we're capturing the right signals?
We have another question here.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Ala, for sharing your experiences. My name is Alex Rivera, fellow Boricua, New Rican.
Boricua, woo!
Wepa! Okay. So in your speech, you were talking about personal experiences, which I can relate to, and I think a lot of people can relate to. So I have the question here. You actually said here, you can be supportive, drive growth, and lift others without being an asshole, right?
I hope we're not transcribing that.
Hopefully
But
we're not
yes, I did
transcribing
say
that,
that. No, I'm kidding.
But I like that word because here's the thing, right? The culture here, particularly in the United States, and you even see that, in politics and stuff like that, is to be that a-hole, right? That's how a lot of people measure your success, particularly when you go up the ladder. That's been my experience. I've been passed up for jobs because I've been told you don't have this certain je ne sais quoi, as they say, but that's the asshole part, right? And I want to know from you what experiences or what examples that you can give us where you've experienced that and how you overcame that.
Yeah, I'm not immune to being I'm not immune to not being a best version of myself, right? And I say that because it's like when we're winning a team, I'm just going to use an example. We have a launch, and I ask a lot of questions. I'm going to use an example of me and my team because that'll be better than kind of saying this kind of happened to me here. And I get a little bit overwhelmed because like I see that the plan is not 100% where it needs to be. And I can see the holes, but I'm assuming that there's somebody that's watching this timeline from 0 to going live on any one thing. It can be a product launch, whatever. And I start asking questions, one email here, one email there. And then I say to myself, okay, how does the person on the other side feel when the CMO of the company is sending them an email saying, what about this, and what about that? So the way that I sort of used, I said, hey, when I think that there's a gap or a problem, I'm just going to call a meeting to talk about the challenge, the challenge or the opportunity of what we're trying to solve. Let's review the plan and collectively allow the humans that are building the plan to actually share what is working and what is not working, so that I'm not going, it's the same outcome, but the how you go about engaging with the humans, I think it's very important. I think sometimes people call me an a-hole because I'm very direct too. I think there's this idea that if you're kind, you're weak. And I'm like, I'm kind and I'm selfless, but I have really high standards. And you could tell my team where they're like, how do you consume this information and do this and do that? And it's it's trial by error for me, how I learn. And the leaders that I've seen where tearing somebody down in a meeting does not help anyone. First of all, it diminishes the human. It's like if I think somebody like, let's take it offline. So I always try to kind of say, hey, we need a business outcome. We make mistakes, but a mistake doesn't define you. I've made so many mistakes that have got me to learn. Like I learn the most when I make mistakes. I don't know about you all, but that's how I learn, which is messed up, right? Just in general, they're lessons. But I would say, I've been in meetings where people have berated me, and I've just said, "Hey, time out. Let's figure out what the root of the problem is, and I'm going to help solve it." Because like I want great things for the company, hands down, but it doesn't require stepping over people. And I know that is kind of easier said than done. But what I can do, it's under my control, is mimic what great I believe is, with a lot of imperfection. Because if I sat here and I told you I have it all figured out, you should probably kick me out the door, right?
One question here, and then we go into the front. Don't worry.
Hola.
Hola.
Gene Alvarez, or really Eugenio Manuel Alvarez, a Boricua from the Bronx. I'm a New Yorican too.
Oh my gosh.
With Gartner. Yeah, Wepa.
Wepa.
So, you have a little party going on in 2 weeks. It's called Sapphire. Right?
It is
Couple
my
of-
personal private party for my
Right, yeah.
closest 15,000 friends.
Right. And you're in charge of global messaging, and you're taking the time out to come here today.
Yeah.
And SAP has taken the time out and the commitment to be part of HITEC. In this environment now, how are you spreading the message both up and down and across to your peers of the value of being in organizations like this? Nelly talked about this being our third place. This is my third place. I'm a HITEC OG, right? So if you want to hear stories about when we had like 20 people splitting the bill at a restaurant, I can tell you that. But I wanted to hear how you tell, the executives at SAP that this is worth my time versus being in your office working on that party.
Well, the beauty is I'm empowered to decide what is important, right? Which is why I love my manager, Sebastian Steinhauser. He's like I learn from him every day, and I love to have a manager that I can learn from every day. But I would say, I think there's things that matter. And there's a lot of executive orders that have happened, which is, above my pay grade and things that I have to control. So I have to be in a position that how do I support the things that I know are going to drive growth, but also ensure that we're aligning with what the company that is required, the things that are required to be successful in the business environment, which also means selling software to government entities, right? So I would say there's not a perfect, I would say, answer, but I think, listen, companies are made of people. If we don't have thriving, diverse talent, we will not go to the Super Bowl. We will not win. So I do spend a lot of time on talent development, mentoring people, because I know that the return on that hour is much higher than spending time answering emails. And that's the story that I tell my peers. I can't tell everybody what to do, but I do know that the yield on my time spending here, I can't expect every other senior leader in this company to have the same passion, but I'm certainly not shy to expose it. And I have partners like Jan, who's a supporter as well, and will be here speaking today, that also do the same. So, it takes a village, and I always say it's like one person at a time, right? We didn't have a Latin CMO for 50 years. I get to wear that hat, and I don't take it lightly, right? And one more question, and then we're gonna, yeah.
Come on, here's
Test,
the
test,
front.
test. I'll stand over here. So I
Yeah,
can
sure.
test it. Test, test, test. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josiah Weeks. I'm a human resource business partner at Cisco Systems. And my question for you is, on the topic of intentional growth in the age of AI, these tough conversations that we tend to have with our reports, our employees, that's something that's always top of mind for me as a partner to my org. How do you approach your reports, your team, the employee base of SAP with these tough conversations as AI comes in and not necessarily takes jobs per se, but transforms how we work?
Yeah, so I would say, I have a, transparency and clarity is kind. And I think the worst thing that we can do for an employee, for any employee, is to shy away from driving and having a meaningful discussion about their performance. Like, I don't understand how people move through without giving people. I give the positive and then the constructive feedback, because that's the only way that I can grow. And I tell my employees, you need to ask. I'll take the great feedback from your peers, but you also need to find the constructive feedback of what you can do better. So that's just a standard that I don't tend to sugarcoat things, which, is good, and it's can be not so good. So I think that's kind of thing one. And if there's an issue, this email kind of like you said, I just pick up the phone and I'm like, okay, let's de-escalate. So that's just general. I think AI is shaping our workforce. And I think that's an opportunity. You can either be afraid and say, oh my God, my job's going to go away. Or you can be, what are the jobs that are opening that I can learn, that I have 80% or 70% or 60% of the skills to survive? Fear does nobody good. So I think it's about, I don't know how many LinkedIn AI courses I've taken in the last year, but I feel like, I'm like, okay, what can I learn? Because I know that if I get, what tools can I use? If I get smarter, I can help our customers and I can help our teams. So I would say that, transparency is the most important thing. And then also having those discussions with your manager or your mentors, right? Like, I have discussions with my team where I'm like, okay, what's going to be your next role? And then it's not like a plan, like I had this plan where like in 3 years, I'm going to do this, but it's just like, what are the things that bring you passion that you want to do? And how do we work towards that over time? And if AI is actually reducing some of your workload, then like that's like the joy of time to focus on something that's more meaningful or to contribute to another part of the business, right? That may need you. Great. Thank you so much.